Okay, everybody, welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be watching the potential of Gon and Killua. This is a video from Swagkage. Now, this one should be very, very interesting because, again, if you've watched the show, then you'll know that Gon and Killua, at least up until a certain point, have shown that they have incredible, and I mean incredible potential. Now, whether or not we'll see that potential fulfilled when the manga comes back, we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this video, and I'm of course looking forward to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So let's just go ahead and full screen this. Just check the volume and play.
Hey, real quick before I get the video started, everybody, just wanted to give a little shout out to a friend of mine. He runs a site called Phantomos.com where he sells a whole bunch of anime merchandise. I've mentioned him before in collabs with Clyde of this nature. At the moment, he's doing a Halloween promo, so go check out the site. You might find discounts on something you want to buy for yourself. And yeah, just go show the guy some love. It doesn't take very much time to at least look at what he has in his catalog. He's a friend of Clyde and mine. He's really cool. He does business with us pretty frequently, and it'd help out both of us as well as this guy if you went and checked out his store. Thanks, guys. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where with me I have my good buddy, my good pal, my sidekick, Clyde the Weeaboo. We're talking about Hunter x Hunter today, as you can, tell, title and thumbnail. And as you can also tell, it's going to be about Gon and Killua. I don't know how well I'm going to communicate the video's actual subject through the title and thumbnail, but the gist of what we're going to be talking about is the potential they have and how, I don't know, necessarily like powerful, but
kind of like a rough estimate. We want to do a back and forth discussion.
The caliber of hunter they will be later on in their lives, just based on the showings that they already have, what people say about them, and scaling off other characters who are already much older than them. They already, like, everybody who's watched the series knows that Gon and Killua get loads of hype. Like, everybody remarks about how these kids are like the second coming of Christ. Wing, he makes Zushi feel like shit by being like, dude, look, you should feel really special about yourself. You're like a 1 in 100,000 talent. Like, it's really hard to find a kid like you. The thing about them, however, is that they're a 1 in 10 million talent. That's why you're not as good. And it just made Zushi fucking start crying. He was so upset. And then, yeah, Nobunaga tried to recruit Gon, a 10-year-old kid, into the Phantom Troop. Gon was able to, well, he didn't really do much against Razor, but he was able to, like, punch the dodgeball so hard that it forced Razor out of the ring, and they won the dodgeball match. Granted, this was with help from Killua and, I mean, the rest of his team, but help. Still, it's a pretty crazy feat for this, like, 10, 11-year-old kid to press Razor, even with the help of his friends. He about killed Morel in one shot with his Jajan-ken. I mean, like, this kid's crazy, and I think Killua speaks for himself. He's, well, not only is he a Zoldike, he's supposedly the most talented member of the entire family, at least at the moment. That gives him more potential than Zeno, than Silva, these two legendary fighters that everybody's fucking terrified of. Even in the Hunter exam, he was leagues ahead of everybody else who didn't already know how to use Nen. And by the time he got a decent understanding of Nen, he was already one of the at least mid-tiers in the verse. Fighting against Killua wasn't easy, even for many seasoned Nen users that were adults.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the reason I wanted to talk about this topic too with Swag so much is because we were talking about how comparing Hunter x Hunter to other series in terms of how long the series has actually gone, there is so much room for potential for Gon and Killua to grow, and whether it's how strong they get, whether it's how much they mature. And it's really interesting to us because I hope to see Killua in the same position as what we got with when, Shippuden started for Naruto. We got to see that Sasuke had grown exponentially. Like,
Sasuke came in and fucking mollywopped everybody, dude. It was, it was really bad.
And it wasn't just like, oh, he can lift an extra 5 kilos. Like, nah, this dude was like an actual god compared to his previous self. And then
I know. He was Akatsuki level. He was able to take out Data. I mean, he fucking ran through anybody who stepped up to him, dude. Orochimaru, Data. I mean, at first it was implied that he was stronger than Itachi. That was later shown to be not true. But then when he awakened Mangekyo Sharingan, he was like a completely different beast entirely. And if the same sort of thing happens with Killua, and I hope Gon as well, that would be really cool to see. The thing is, though, if we're gonna use the Naruto comparison, I really hope that Gon doesn't do what Naruto did and just become taller and supposedly physically stronger, because Naruto didn't really develop any new techniques aside from the one use of the sexy jutsu that he pulled out against Kaguya in the final battle, and that was it.
Yeah, it was weird because like Sasuke used his, year to two to train.
It was
really hard,
2 to 3 years. It was about 2.5.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Whereas Naruto kind of got his abilities in Shippuden, which is weird when Sasuke had already got all his during the time skip. But
I know, right? Yeah. He didn't develop anything else. He just got a Matarasu from the Mangekyo Sharingan. That's the funny part.
That's what makes it so interesting with Killua, is because they already have potential.
Sorry, just to harp on that for a second, it did kind of suck that after the time skip, we didn't really see Sasuke develop any new abilities. At least not really. I mean, we saw him. In a way, we saw him sort of take the Amaterasu and develop it to an extreme level. Like seriously, it is insane how much better he got with Amaterasu after he got it, as opposed to when he first had it, to where at first he could just set things on fire just by looking at it, like what Itachi was doing. But then later, especially during the war arc, you saw how much control he had over the Amaterasu flames, and it was insane. But yeah, if you think about it, he didn't really develop any new, really new abilities, nothing really fire-based, nothing really lightning-based, which honestly kind of sucks, because especially when you saw how much he took how much he became almost like a master at lightning release jutsu. Like he had he took the Chidori that was taught to him by Kakashi, and he mastered it to a point where even Kakashi hadn't been able to do. Like he created the Chidori Stream, the Chidori Senbon, he created the Chidori Sword. Like it was insane. But to me, I was always wondering, after that, why didn't we never see him utilize any technically new abilities? I mean, I guess Indra's arrow could count, but he needs the power of the tailed beast in order to be able to use that jutsu, and he doesn't really have that anymore. Not to mention he needs a certain something that was taken from him in the latest chapter, but whatever. Okay, I've paused long enough. Let's go back to the video.
He had all these offerings, and they've been recognized by so many people, but
I'm gonna try not to pause too long because this video is already 25 minutes long, and I don't want the video itself to be any longer than it needs to be.
The Hunter x Hunter universe in general, with the way that the abilities work, it's going to be interesting to see how strong Killua in particular gets, because he's already strong as fuck.
I think Gon as well. They both have a pretty.
I'm just for my own personal.
I like Killua a lot. I think everybody does. His abilities are really interesting.
We also talked about before making this video more than once that there's a very common trope in shonen manga where the main characters usually tend to be quite stupid, and I said this about Gon, but then we both came to the conclusion that
I pointed out that Gon's not stupid. He's just
not actually stupid.
Yeah, he's a kid. He's a naive child.
He might mature a lot within the span of a potential time skip, and then the abilities him and Killua are going to learn on top of what they already know, being impressive enough as it is going to be insane.
Yeah, well, I already talked about Killua's background a little bit. He's from the Zoldyck family, who everybody is fucking terrified of. He also has that really crazy what was it? It's the 40-ton feat by pushing the doors open.
More than that. It was 64.
64-ton feet, yeah, and that's more than fucking Goku could lift in the Buu saga in base form. But anyway, Killua's background speaks for itself. But Gon is a bit more interesting. He doesn't have any.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I gotta talk about that for a second. The whole 40 kilo thing makes no goddamn sense. Because at that point, Goku, you could say, was strong enough to blow up a fucking galaxy. You're telling me he has enough power to blow up a galaxy, and yet he didn't have enough physical strength to lift 40 kilos? No, I'm sorry. That to me, that always bothered me. It's just, it's little details like that in Toriyama's writing. You even see this a little bit in Super, but it's little bits of pieces of information like that make you go, dude, did you already forget what your characters can do? I mean, just a couple of chapters ago, he killed someone who could blow up a fucking galaxy, and yet you're telling me he can't lift a couple kilos? Are you kidding me? No, it's just, sorry, just had to rag on that for a second.
doesn't come from this super prestigious family. At least I don't think so yet. The Freaks family might actually end up being super OP because we've gotten some more information about one member of it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, good thing I paused right there. Before he continues, there might be spoilers for the manga, so if you again haven't read the manga, again I apologize for this, but if you haven't read the manga, you might want to click off the video because this video might contain possible spoilers. So there's your warning.
Who's supposedly been on the Dark Continent for an absurd amount of time, longer than anybody should even be able to, live, given a natural lifespan. But what we do know about Gon and his background is that he's the son of Jing, this guy who is like one of the top 5 strongest nin users ever, according to Netero, and that is a ballsy fucking claim to make about anybody. There are a lot of Hunter x Hunter characters, there are a lot of nin users in the Hunter x Hunter verse, and Jing is in the top 5, and Gon's this guy's kid. And
this is the
Jing's
thing that I really.
This
is the reason why I want the manga to come back, because I really want to know more about this.
What I think is important to keep in mind is the similarities between these two characters, because Jing just, like, to me, he looks like what Gon would be like as an adult. You get what I mean? Like, they look similar. He has a very similar personality. He's very aloof. He's selfish. He makes really strange decisions. He's very gifted when it comes to combat. Pretty much everybody likes him, though there are a couple people who don't.
It's pretty much like a goalpost for Gon to... Not so much for him to aim for, but it shows potential of what he might end up being at the end of the series. And that's the difference with Gon and Killua is, like, Killua's come from a family that's already full of, assassins, and they're extremely strong. He's Killua's been conditioned throughout his childhood, and that's why he's, like, I wouldn't say naturally strong, but he has just been strong. He's been brought up.
He is pretty naturally strong. He fucked up that one prisoner that they fought in Trick Tower. Like, he just ran through him and ripped out his heart. That's why I'm saying he's been conditioned so that he's, like, naturally really strong. Like I said, without Nin, that 64-ton feat is fucking ridiculous. But the difference between Gon and Killua is you don't have this. Gon has this in 2 different ways, but I'll get into the second one later. But Killua, you don't really have a way to look at, okay, this is what this guy is gonna be like as an adult. You don't have an adult form of Killua per se to look at in the series, and that's how I view Jing, I guess. I don't know if anybody agrees with me about that, but it's just they have such, like, strong similarities, both appearance-wise, personality-wise, just character-wise in general. I mean, there are a few key differences there, but for the most part, I think Jing is just like a more cynical portrayal of Gon, a more grown-up, more seasoned version of Gon, what Gon could become. So, if we use Jing to scale Gon, then we already have an idea of how strong he's going to be, and that is, like, top 5 strongest Nen users ever. If we don't, we do have another way to measure Gon's potential, but I'll get into that later on in the video. Anyway, so we've talked about their background and their hype long enough, so let's just get into their abilities. I'll let you go ahead and start off with Gon.
Yeah, so we've gone, like, we've talked about plenty of times before making this video that there's really not a lot we can get into in terms of his abilities, other than the fact that, like, obviously his hand-to-hand combat, like, as we've seen in Heaven's Arena, was already good enough to the point where he could... He wasn't necessarily pressuring Hisoka, but he did make it noticeable that he did grow in such a short amount of time. And not
only that, there's that one feat of him dodging the tops by using Zetsu to sense where they are, and then Wing was baffled that he, like, figured out how to use Zetsu so quickly without even being taught how to do it.
Yep, and we also had the bit with Morale that Swag mentioned just before, where he loaded up a Junken so much that Morale was under the impression that he may have fucking died if it had hit him. So
he was just like, all right, probably shouldn't have said treat me like I'm the guy who killed Kite. Obviously, the craziest thing that has been said about Gon is that he is Meruem level. Granted, pre-Rose, because I know when Pidu said this, he, whatever, had no idea that post-Rose Meruem was a thing. And granted, this is when he
I don't think he was as strong as
now this is where this
Meruem,
becomes really interesting.
He was powerful, but I don't think he was that strong.
Because Togashi can do a whole lot of interesting things with this idea. He can subvert the audience's expectations and make them think that Gon might actually get stronger than this when he ages into an adult, and then decide, oh no, that's actually exactly how strong Gon was able to become, because Pidu said that Gon pushed his body to its physical peak, to what it would be like in his prime. So that was his absolute maximum potential. And I wonder if there's any way for him to change, or alter that with any other experiences, or by learning more about Nen. Because the weird thing about his transformation into an adult is, did that just make his body more powerful? powerful, or did that
Yeah,
give him
it-
more
it-
knowledge about Nen? You know what I mean?
It seemed like it was the pinnacle of raw strength, not so
Yeah.
much the pinnacle of like what you could do with. Because if
Yeah.
we look at Killua,
Yeah,
for
with like
example,
knowledge and stuff.
his ability has been around like mostly speed and electricity, but he's also expanded upon those abilities. Whereas
Oh, yeah.
that's something we can see in the future.
Well, no,
with
like
Gon.
Killua created the ability to use lightning.
Mhm.
He made it into Godspeed and Whirlwind in just one arc, and that's crazy. And by the way, I'll get more into that later, but those abilities are fucking ridiculous. And in the hands of like even just a 16 to 17-year-old Killua, that'd be crazy. Gon doesn't have quite as complex of a skill set, though. I mean, not to say that Killua's abilities are like radically complicated,
No.
but Gon's ability is pretty simple. It's just rock, paper, scissors. His rock punches really hard, scissors cuts things, and paper is, I believe, it's a projectile. It's not very complicated, but I think it's actually like so simple at its foundation that there are so many ways that Gon could expand upon it and make it better, make it more complex, apply conditions to it. Like rock can only work in certain scenarios, scissors can only work in others, and make each of them stronger individually, because the way they are now, they can all be used in any situation that he wants them to. He hasn't done anything like close to what Kurapika did with his Nen chain ability, where he provided like very specific conditions that could only be used in very specific circumstances. And I think if Gon does something like that, he could be like ridiculous. And that's not even mentioning how much stronger he'll get naturally, or how much larger his Nen reserves will get, how much more he'll learn about Nen as a whole, because he's only been training to use it for like less than a year, and just how much stronger he'll get physically over time. Because if we take his adult form and look at it as, all right, so this is his like physical pinnacle, this is the strongest he can get physically without training to learn more about Nen any further, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, it's really difficult to imagine how much more powerful he would become if he had that huge physical buff, if he was an adult, but he knew so much more about Nen than he already does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. There is a ridiculous amount of potential with Gon. Like you were saying about if he puts limitations onto certain abilities, like you can only do it if let's say with scissors, you can only do it in like a certain motion, but it makes it stronger because of the limitations on it. That would be cool if he expands on that, or even just learns more abilities in general. Because I feel like as something as basic as hand-to-hand combat in the series is incredibly impressive, and he was, and I think he will still like be in the future. And there was the bit in the Chimera Ant arc where he was loading up a Junken against Pito that had like flames going around it, and it was like Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho. And I was curious how strong he would have been at that point in time, because he had grown so much in such a short amount of time, but he didn't even use the attack.
Pito was fucking scared. Granted, she didn't have any of her defenses up. She had to focus like all of her attention on healing Komugi, but that's still fucking crazy.
That was the strongest form of Gon other than his adult form for sure.
Oh yeah, his adult form blew up a fucking forest. That was ridiculous, like with one punch. And he didn't even have an arm either. He loaded up a Jajanken without an arm, and it just like created this big ball of Nen, like just next to his severed arm. It was crazy. And I mean, the thing about adult Gon is Netero took a look at Pidu and said, that thing is fucking stronger than I am, and Gon tore her to pieces. In the future, he'll probably exceed his dad.
I think they were kind of also basing it off of Nen level, because like adult Gon was kind of just like a tank, really. That's all. That's the.
He was as strong as Meruem was, which is like that's fucking crazy.
That is ridiculous.
He would have gone in there, and if not for actually, we explained earlier that Gon's not stupid, but I don't think he's as smart as Meruem. So the only reason he would have lost in a fight against the king of the Chimera Ants is the fact that Meruem was like the smartest character in the whole series, and that would be the only thing holding him back.
He definitely would have as the fight progressed, because I don't think it was a huge gap. It looked like Pito pretty much acknowledged that he was at the level where he could have potentially been a threat, and that itself is just
he
crazy.
Wouldn't have won, but the fact that he could have fought a lot better against Meruem than Netero did is fucking insane.
And at the same time, it also
the fact that he actually could put up a challenge tells you just how strong he was.
Like I don't even believe he'll ever go back to that form specifically, because it's a suicide move, really. And because I remember you said to me there's a lot of people who believe that's what he'll eventually learn, how to somehow go in and out of that form.
No.
That's what it is. It's literally a last resort move.
Well, I mean, I feel like Togashi might figure out a way for Gon to be able to use it, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't think he'll go. Like, that's a really overboard thing to do, and that will make Gon ridiculously.
It will make him pretty busted.
Exactly.
Runs.
Well, the thing is, I don't think Togashi's like really big on transformations. You know what I mean? Like, the only people who have transformed are Meruem, sort of, and,
not really.
A couple other Chimera Ants like Yuppie and Zazan, but I mean, like I don't think he's big
Yeah,
on transformation for
no.
Those
human
were
characters.
plausible, and even
Yeah,
even in Yu Yu Hakusho, like Yusuke didn't actually transform. It wasn't
yeah,
really him that did it. It was the
Yeah,
Otoko
it
thing. If
was
anyone's watched it,
Ryzen.
so like Togashi hasn't really followed those tropes before, so I don't see that being a common thing you're gonna
Yeah.
see in the series
yeah.
later on. So
I just can't imagine.
I mean, the only thing that I can kind of imagine him like sort of utilizing that in the future is, you know, they talked about putting restrictions on his nen, and it is established in this world by Togashi that when people put restrictions on their nen, like they say that they can only use it in certain conditions, it does make their nen incredibly stronger. Like for example, if Gon, like a lot of people have speculated that when Gon eventually comes back to the series, you know, if he were to sort of regain his nen, that maybe it'll be different because Gon might be a different person, and it is established that a person's nen, or specifically their hatsu, is a reflection of their own personality. So there is a chance that Gon might not even have the same abilities. But if he does, let's just say if he does, if he still decides to, you know, like use Jajanken, or maybe it could be just more advanced. Like say for example, when it comes to rock, which is just, you know, a punch, he could put the restriction of he can only use it when he's like incredibly close. Like he can only use it in close quarters. If him and his enemy have like a certain distance between them, then it just automatically doesn't work. Then oh, but in that case, he could use another ability like the like paper, which is basically allows him to fire the sort of key blast like attack. Oh, but even then, he would still need like a certain distance between them, and the attack itself could be as strong as, let's say, the opponent. Like so, let's say it'll be more effective if Gon has a more has a better understanding of just how strong his opponent is. So his attack, the paper attack, will be as strong as it needs to be when he fires it. But when it comes to scissors, which allows him to create a sword, let's say, for example, the restriction could be like, since it's an attack that cuts, let's say he could make a restriction to where it only works if he's aiming for like a certain body type. So let's say, for example, if he's going for, let's say, for example, he decides, I'm only going to go for the arm. I'm only going to go for an arm, or I'm going to go for both arms. And if he tries to go for any other part of the body, the attack gets shut off. You know, because Gon, as we've established, again, from now, he can be a little hasty. So maybe he decides to put that restriction on him because he knows that he can get a little carried away in fights. And when he decides to go for a certain body part, if in the middle of it he changes his mind, the ability will immediately switch off and it'll remind him, oh yeah, I decided to go for that and not something else. So he has to decide from the beginning which body part he's going to go for, and he has to only focus on that, otherwise the ability won't work. Again, this is just off the top of my head, and this is again only depending on whether or not Gon will still utilize the same ability when he does come back, and I do believe he will come back, because again, he is still the main character of the entire show, or the entire series. It's just that right now this series doesn't really need him to be involved. That's why Togashi doesn't have him involved. You know, the story is mostly focused on other people. That's why they're taking center stage. But I've seen a lot of people believe that Gon is never going to come back, which I completely disagree with. And a lot of people have been saying that Gon doesn't have has lost his ability to use Nen. And some people have taken that to mean that he'll never use Nen again. But if I'm being honest, that's not the case. Again, Togashi himself did kind of make that clear in the manga. He had Jing tell him that no, you still have your Nen. You just probably lost your ability to see it. So he'll probably need to relearn how to use Nen again. But to do that, he would probably need someone else, or he could try to do it himself, but it would take longer. But you could ask, like, you know, the people he could ask, like Wing, for example, in order to help him. You have to think, would Wing even do it? Because, again, like, dude, the last time I helped you, look where you ended up. Like, how do I know you're not going to do something like that to yourself again? Like, what can you give me as confirmation that you're not going to hastily do something stupid to the point where you end up killing yourself? So, I don't know, I feel like that might be part of, maybe that's going to be part of Gon's story when he does eventually come back, which is to sort of try to resolve what, you know, think about what happened in the past and try to resolve it and try to maybe show people that he has changed, that he's not the same kid that he was at first. And again, this is just me hypothesizing. Sorry, I've paused it for long enough. Let's go ahead.
Go and doing that. I think that would be a very interesting Nen ability. But he already has Jajan-Ken, so I don't know. He might be able to tap into that in some capacity in the near future, but I don't think he'll be able to go like all into his adult form. That's probably
it'd be pretty cool if he could give him some.
And sorry, I forgot to mention this, but when talking about the going in and out of the form, and I talked about restrictions, one thing I could realistically say is maybe he will put a restriction on himself where he can only go into that form as a literal last resort. Like, say, for example, they're in a situation where either he or people that he cares about are going to die. Like, let's say, for example, he decides to reunite with Killua and they're in a situation where they're about to die. And he has to go into that form because that's the only way he'll be powerful enough to either beat whatever is threatening them and to save himself, but more importantly, whoever's with him. But even then, he'll put restrictions on it, like he can only use it for, let's say 5 minutes. And then he just immediately reverts back to normal, or back to how he was before he went into that form. So let's say it only acts as like a literal last resort, and only for a certain amount of time. Again, this is just depending on whether or not Togashi decides to bring that form back, or again, this is just us hypothesizing because it's the only thing we can do because the manga isn't back yet and it's been 2 fucking years. Come on, Togashi. Please, I bring the manga back. We're begging you.
Like a physical buff to some
extent.
If he
could just buff his arm to the strength of his adult form, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure he will, because Gon's a quick learner for someone who is quite daft at the moment, and it seems like maybe later on when he does eventually get his abilities back, he'll be like, oh well, I thought if I use the same blah 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 from the adult form, I can mix it in with my Janjo-Ken, and then who knows? We could see something like that in the future. That would be interesting. Killua, on the other hand, though,
we just spent forever talking about just Gon, who we prefaced the discussion about, who has very simple abilities. Now we're getting into Killua, who, I mean, we got to talk about not only his Lightning Hatsu, Whirlwind, and Godspeed, but we also have to talk about the abilities he's learned thanks to training from the Zoldikes.
So, what would you want to start off with? Because
I have no fucking idea. Yeah, Killua has so much up his sleeve. I mean, he was one of the strongest people at the Chimera Ant invasion.
Even without Godspeed, let's say he doesn't have Godspeed, he's still going to be an absolute monster because he's got the assassin mode thing. He's got that mixed with Nen. He's already fast as fuck. He's got all his assassin moves in terms of the shadow clone type, the archery technique.
Yeah, he's naturally gifted at using Zetsu because of the fact that he's been raised by assassins. See, you say even without Godspeed he's a monster, and then you stack Godspeed on top of that, and it's fucking ridiculous. Like I said, he's easily one of the most powerful.
Plus a time skip with that time skip Godspeed. It's like oof.
Yeah, if he ended up being a teenager, it would. But I mean, like I keep saying, he was one of the strongest people at the castle during the invasion in the Chimera Ant arc, and this is that's fucking insane because you had these really seasoned hunters like Morel and Nov, and then you had Knuckle and Shoot, and Killua was one of the most important people there. There were even Chimera Ants helping these guys out, and Killua was way stronger than any of them.
Yeah,
he put the hands on Yuppie. He put the hands on Yuppie in a way that nobody could. Yuppie was fucking pissed off. Killua couldn't damage him, but Yuppie couldn't really do anything about him. He was stalling. He was, slowing Yuppie's movements, forcing him to flinch in pain, shit like that. He couldn't damage him, but Yuppie couldn't damage Killua either. He couldn't. It was a total stalemate, and it was crazy.
It's the best example of tactical fighting winning over just raw power, because if you put Killua against Morale or Knuckles or any of those guys, he would probably rip their hearts out like he did the prison dude very easily. So that's just
the only reason he didn't do that. The only reason he didn't do that against Yuppie is because Yuppie Yuppie had that fucking crazy 700,000 Nen bank.
Not just that too, but his actual skin itself would be so much tougher than any other character in the series, other than the other ants and stuff.
Well,
so,
that
he
was survived blowing himself up.
I mean, he got hit by the whirlwind and stuff, which had not only Killua's Nen strength in general, but also Godspeed mixed in with the speed of lightning hitting him. skin, like that's just any skin still tank that. Like that's
that's just because Yuppie's like an outlier in terms of physical strength. Killua was able to damage
which proves,
Poof.
which only backs your point that like he was legit stronger than even the seasoned fucking hunters there. So the potential he's gonna have when he gets older is it's gonna be crazy.
He fucking terrified a Chimera Ant. Poof did not know what to do against this kid. And as anybody who's watched the Chimera Ant arc or read the Chimera Ant arc knows, by the end of the castle invasion, the only thing on Poof's mind was getting rid of Komagi. That is all he wanted. Like he had like primal instincts driving him to fucking kill this girl. That is like he did not want anything else. And as soon as he realized what Killua was capable of, he gave up. Like he couldn't fucking do it. You know,
give him a rundown of what happened when Killua was like, "Yo, fam, want to dance?"
Yeah, he made the circle, and he was like, "If you step in this circle, I'll fucking kill you." And then Poof was like, "All right, yeah, sure, whatever." He tries to go in the circle, and he gets part of his body vaporized.
We get like a taser. Like you can see his fingers, and it's like.
Like Killua wasn't joking.
This is someone who Morel had to use like the most slippery ass moves to even dick around with.
No, Morel just had to stand still and like hope that Poof couldn't go anywhere.
And then we've got Killua over there who's just like, "Yo, dude, I'm so fast that you can't even comprehend it. You're a bitch." And then
he's actually stepping up against him. He's challenging him to a fight. Morel could only stall, and Killua was out here like fucking throwing the hands with Poof. Poof had to fly away.
And these are royal ants that, like, for example, you mentioned before, Netero looked at Pito and he's just like, "Yo, this thing's most likely stronger than me." And then, like, I'm not saying Poof is stronger than her, but he's still in the same category. And that itself, knowing that Killua can put him on the back foot and almost bitch him, that's insane. The potential he has is just. I'm so curious how it's going to be if there is a time skip. I hope.
Imagine the gap between Part 1 Sasuke and Shippuden Sasuke was gigantic. Sasuke learned how to use lightning release and fire. Well, Sasuke was already proficient at using fire release, but he learned how to use lightning release better than pretty much anybody else. Like he had a lightning release understanding that like rivaled or even exceeded Kakashi's. You know, like this is like a Raikage level lightning release master, and you can get mad at me for saying that if you want, but I don't even think the fucking Raikage could pull off a move like Kirin. Yeah, exactly. And I talked about this the last time I spoke about this with you. I think that actually draws a pretty good pair. Well, everybody knows that Naruto's no stranger to borrowing concepts from Hunter x Hunter. It's not exactly a ripoff, but I think it'd be pretty funny if Togashi did the exact same thing right back and had Killua develop a lightning dragon.
Hey, I mean, you stole from me, bitch. Now it's my turn.
Sense because of Zeno's dragon dive ability. Killua could model some sort of lightning ability after that and just have lightning rain down from the fucking sky. I mean, like, it's just if he ended up being 16 or 17, like, I really don't know what this kid would be capable of. He would be a total fucking freak of nature.
The argument people are going to make is, well, Godspeed runs out too fast, and then the response would be, well, by that time he would have figured out a way to make the ability last longer, and even if that's the case, I'm sure that he can at least use that ability once, and that's all he needs once. If he has an ability that's that deadly, using purely electricity, that's going to be fucking crazy, and he's going to need abilities like this if they step into the Dark Continent, because it's already been stated that there's going to be guys that they're going to run across more than once that are already, like, as strong as Meruem, if not the entirety of the Chimera Anarchs, which means it's only natural that if we're going to see Gon and Killua in the next arc, like a lot, they are going to have to get stronger. They are going to have to develop abilities like this, or there will also be a potential time skip. He'd either get something like that, which seems pretty realistic, to be honest.
Well, no matter what, even if he develops more variations of his Hatsu, he's gonna make Godspeed better. You gotta. Nobody can tell me that he created the ability and that's it. He's not gonna improve it at all. That's stupid, and that doesn't make any sense. I guarantee you, Godspeed is gonna get. He's gonna get way more proficient at using it. It's gonna become a much more powerful, potent, deadly ability. And like if he can make it last for even like 5 to 10 minutes at a time, he's gonna be just about unstoppable. But I mean, because how are you gonna last 10 minutes against a guy who can move that fucking fast?
Yeah, and there's not many characters at all that we even know that can move that fast. I'm sure there will be in the future, but like it's even arguable that Meruem wasn't that fast. So that's
possible. Maybe he was faster.
I'm just saying
but,
it's potential, because that is a huge, like, that's a huge
Yeah.
gap from, like, you know, hypersonic to fucking the speed of lightning. That's insane.
Exactly.
Well, like, what else could he really do? Like, because I'm sure he's gonna make more abilities than just the lightning too, knowing him, because he came up with the Godspeed out of nowhere for the next.
Oh
arc.
yeah,
That was
absolutely.
really
Oh
interesting.
well, I mentioned this to you the last time we had this discussion, and Killua could use Godspeed in a lot more ways. Well, at least he could use the properties of it. Like, he could shock a friend's nervous system, for example. So sorry about the cut. I just got a fucking phone call. Anyway, as I was saying, so Killua can't use it for support purposes to buff the abilities of his teammates. What he could do is the exact opposite, and shock his enemies' muscles and nervous systems, very similar to what Sasuke did, actually, when he first showed up in the series, and use lightning to paralyze his enemies, at least temporarily. And I think that would be, I mean, like, in Hunter x Hunter, that would be, like, especially if he combines it with Godspeed, you know, he paralyzes somebody, Godspeed rips out their heart, bam, he's not stoppable.
Rest in pepperoni.
Anyways, I think that about does it for this video. Let me know, let Clyde know what you guys think of the potential of Gon and Killua. More importantly, if you guys want more Hunter x Hunter videos, let me know in the comments below. Yeah, I would love to talk about Crollo, the man himself. And if you guys
have a
want
Crollo
to see
video planned, and it will be really fucking good, so pay attention. If you want more Hunter x Hunter videos, make sure you make it very clear in the comments below.
Yeah, if this video does well, I'll definitely make sure to make some more in the future. But yeah, go subscribe to Clyde. He makes really good shit. His channel's really, you know, really good. But yeah, go subscribe to Clyde. Again, makes great videos. You won't regret it. It takes like 5 seconds to go check out his channel, so fucking do it. And until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
I think that's it. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was the video, and boy, they are, man, they are 100% right. I mean, seriously, the potential of Gon and Killua is insane. Like, yeah, they mentioned it. I mean, multiple times we've had people in the series constantly talk about how insane these two are when it comes to their potential for growth. And the only thing that's kind of a I guess you could say it's a bit of a roadblock at the moment is that, you know, after what happened, and I think I already mentioned this before, but what happened is that Gon now, I guess you could say he's sort of back to square one. You know, I think he's like still has the knowledge of how to use Nen. Like, I think that knowledge is still there. He doesn't have access to it. And I think that's going to be sort of like his main roadblock. And we don't really know how much time it's been since the, I guess you could say, the ending of the, the Chairman election arc, where we saw Gon and Killua before Gon left to meet with his dad. And we don't, and now considering where the manga is, we don't exactly know how much time, again, it's been since. We don't know if it's been a couple of months. We don't know if it's been maybe a year or two. We don't know. We don't really know. And I'm just wondering, like, if there is a time skip, I'm wondering if maybe during the time skip, Gon will have figured out how to sort of unlock his Nen ability on his own. And maybe he's been training all this time. Although it would kind of suck if it happens off screen. I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but it would kind of suck if it did happen off screen. Maybe eventually, if it does happen off screen, maybe eventually we'll get a bit of a flashback where Gon, like, maybe if he meets up with Killua again, Killua will ask, well, like, how did you gain access to your Nen again? And like, that's when he'll tell us what happened. So maybe we'll find out that way. Even though I would like to just experience it at first, but okay, if Togashi does to take that route, it'll be fine with me. And I am sort of curious if maybe we'll ever see Gon and Killua in the Dark Continent, because I have a feeling that, you know, Gon knowing about the Dark Continent and knowing about everything out there in the world, that everything they know based on, you know, the world maps that they have isn't everything. I don't know. I mean, to me, I can't help but feel like maybe Gon wouldn't at the very least be curious as to what it might be like. Or at the very least, maybe he'll just want to see what Killua's up to. But I don't know. Or who knows, maybe after whatever happens in the current arc, maybe the story will shift focus and Killua will become the main character, and we'll find out what the hell's happening with him and Aluka. And we know that Illumi has said multiple times, like, he wants he wants he wants Alika's power for himself. Although whether or not that's going to happen, we'll have to wait and see, because he is on the boat, and he's on the way to the Dark Continent, and we still don't know if he's necessarily going to survive, because again, Togashi himself said that the Dark Continent is kind of insane. Like, there are, I mean, they even said it themselves, there are multiple Meruem level threats in the Dark Continent. So, and I personally, some people might get mad at this, but I don't think Illumi's as strong as the Meruem. I don't think that's the case. I don't think Illumi can put up a fight against the king. I don't think any of the Phantom Troop can put up a fight against the king. I'm sorry. I don't think that any of them could really put up with, even Crollo. Not even Crollo could fight him. Again, in my opinion, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they could. Not against someone as powerful and as smart as he was. Hell, I mean, Togashi made the guy so powerful he had to kill him off. I mean, this is seriously, Meruem was fucking broken. Not to mention, he's, in my opinion, probably the best character in the entire show. Not my favorite, but I think probably the best written character in the show. But anyway, guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And especially if you're new here, consider subscribing, because it will go a long way in helping me out with the algorithm, and it'll go a long way in supporting the channel. So remember to stay safe and take care of yourselves, and join me for the next one. Bye for now.